So I just want to share, it's interesting how Michael was sharing from Ministry of Healing, page 128. I didn't know he was going to. And actually this morning, I even asked him where this these words I wanted to read, and they were actually in the same book. So praise the Lord. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Ministry of Healing, page 128. It's at the very top. It says, too little attention is generally given to the preservation of health. It is far better to prevent disease than to know how to treat it when contracted. It is a duty of every person for his own sake and for the sake of humanity to inform himself in regard to the laws of life and consciously to obey them. All need to become acquainted with that most wonderful of all organisms, the human body. They should understand the functions of the various organs and the dependence of one upon another for the healthy action of all. They should study the influence of the mind upon the body and of the body upon the mind and the laws by which they are governed. So we were given a most amazing human body, haven't we, from God? And I just want to thank you, just praise God for this most marvelous body he has given us. And that it's so important that we understand how this body works and that we know how to prevent disease. So I'm going to carry on now with my lecture now. All right. The adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are a very important organ. The reason why I want to talk on the adrenal glands is because it really affects the whole entire body. And as we just learned, it's very important that we understand how the body works. So the adrenal glands are 2 thumb-sized organs. That's pretty small when you think about it. If you look at the top on the screen, that is actually what adrenal glands look like. They're not very nice looking, but that's what they are that God gave us. They sit above your kidneys. Now, I don't know if everyone knows where the kidneys are. Some people think they're in the front, but they're actually in the back and are part of the endocrine system, also known as the suprarenal glands. They're involved in producing over 50 hormones. See, some people think that adrenal glands just release cortisol, but it doesn't. It releases 50 hormones that drive almost every bodily function, many of which are essential for life. Hormones affect every function, organ, and tissue in the body, directly or indirectly. They react to each other as well as respond to conditions in the body in an intricate and highly sensitive balancing act. The adrenal glands work closely with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, which is in the brain, in a system known as the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, HPA axis. Adrenal cortex. Think salt, sugar, and sex. Your adrenal glands are responsible for balancing hormones such as glucocorticoids, hormones that balance your body's blood sugar, help with energy and food metabolism. They help your body bust stress and manage your immune response. Example, cortisol. Mineral corticoids, hormones that maintain healthy blood pressure, So some people, who have high blood pressure might want to get their adrenals checked out, the cortisol. It manages your blood hydration level and keep your blood healthy by keeping salt and water in balance. Sex hormones, estrogen and testosterone, adrenaline, hormones that affect your heart health, make sure that all parts of the body are getting blood and convert glycogen into glucose in your liver. Isn't that amazing how much this adrenal gland is a functioning of your system, and yet it's just a thumb size in your back. Cortisol and adrenal function. What is cortisol? Well, it is nature's built-in alarm system and your body's main stress hormone. It works with certain parts of your brain to control your mood, motivation, and fear. Cortisol is also essential at normal levels and is responsible for the fight or flight mechanism. Cortisol is a life-sustaining adrenal hormone essential to the maintenance of homeostasis, which means balance. It's called the stress hormone, which we do need when we are having stress. Cortisol influences, regulates, or modulates many of the changes that occur in the body in response to stress, including but not limited to. Now, isn't that interesting how God created us and he knew that we were going to be going through stress, especially when sin came on, that we needed this cortisol. Gut cortisol is in control of secretory immunoglobulin A. Immunoglobulin protects the lining of your gut. Now, if you remember with part 1, I did the leaky gut. Well, remember I told you that adrenal glands is connected to the gut. And this is how. Gut is against potential foods that could be reactive or cause a problem, and protects you against potential pathogens like bacteria or parasites or yeast. Direct relationship between how burned out the adrenal glands are and how damaged the gut lining has become. So if your adrenal glands are burned out, gut lining is going to be damaged, or vice versa. Cortisol come out of balance, then your secretory Sig comes out of balance, then your gut lining becomes a target to react to food you might be sensitive to. And a lot of people have sensitivity to food, wheat, dairy, there's just many different ones. Normal cortisol levels. Oh, you ever feel like that? That's stress. Oh, cortisol levels normally fluctuate throughout the day and night in a circadian rhythm that peaks at about 8 a.m. and reaches its lowest around 4 a.m. While it is vital to health for the adrenals to secrete more cortisol in response to stress, it is also very important that bodily functions and cortisol levels return to normal following a stressful event. That's why when we're under a lot of stress, whatever the circumstances are, that we come back to normal. And you'll find out if we don't come back to normal, what will happen to the body. Unfortunately, in our current high stress culture, the stress response is activated so often, the body does not always have a chance for it to return to. Main stress control system. So when you're under stress, this is what your body does. So you have dilation of the bronchial, so you're heavy breathing. Okay? Your liver converts glycogen to glucose. Your brain is sending off ACTH, that's a hormone, and it decreases your digestive system. So now you have bloating, gas, indigestion, and then you have high blood pressure, and your heart rate goes up. Well, that doesn't sound good for the body, does it? That's what happens, but we need to make sure it comes back down to normal. But that doesn't happen. Sometimes one person will have another episode, and then there's another event. I had that happen in my life for 4 years. I was on fight, flight, and I had major adrenal burnout, and I'm finally on the recovery. Praise God for his remedies, which I will share with them. The adrenal glands are the main stress control system of the body. Adrenal fatigue is a decrease in the adrenal glands' ability to carry out this normal function. It is commonly caused by factors affecting the adrenals, so life issues, financial pressures. Boy, we're under that, aren't we? Death of a loved one. Well, I had that this year. My dad died in April. Unwanted unemployment, emotional stress, marital stress. There's so much going on right now with this whole COVID that I bet you that people's adrenals are very stressed out and burning out. Lifestyle, smoking, lack of sleep, overexertion, lack of or excessive exercise, lack of relaxation, poor eating habits. Body issues, allergies. Now, who would have thought allergies could come from your adrenal glands being burned out? But it can. Infections, acute and chronic. Diet, coffee, caffeine, sugar, lack of good food, and white flour products. So these are a lot of them. Signs your adrenals are trying to get your attention. You're fatigued, you're tired in the morning. I don't know if you guys feel like this, but I do sometimes. In the morning, it's hard for me to get out of bed. Michael can concur to that. I love sleeping. I'm not a morning person. I'm praying, I will. PM, you're just exhausted. Like 9 o'clock, you're ready to go to bed. Stress or anxiety. Sugar. Who craves for sugar? I know I do. Salt. I do that as well. Low blood sugar, low blood pressure, muscle aches, joint pain, chemical sensitivity, weakened immunity, chronic infections, hives, reactions to bug bites, allergies, asthma, eczema, brain fog, impaired memory. Doesn't this sound like a lot of these symptoms are very familiar with the leaky gut? Well, they are. And they also are for the burned out adrenals. More symptoms of fatigue, lack of enthusiasm, difficulty lifting themselves for important occasions. Have you ever had that happen where there's a great occasion going to happen and you're like, yeah, but you're not all that excited about it. It's an inability to cope with stressful situations. When the adrenals become fatigued, they lose their ability to produce stress hormones, the ones that we use for our fight and flight response. What happens when the adrenal glands stop producing hormones efficiently? Well, every bodily function is affected. Remember I was telling you, it affects the whole body. And as adrenal hormone levels shrink, even the normal get up and go you get from them disappears. Adrenal fatigue symptoms include morning fatigue, trouble waking up, decreased libido, depression, muscle weakness, poor focus, bone loss. So did you even know that your adrenal glands, when they are exhausted, when they're not producing those hormones, this can also cause osteoporosis. Hair loss. You ever had where your hair's just falling out? I did. Muscle tension. So, if any of these statements from the adrenal fatigue checklist sound familiar, you want to take the iris contraction test. I don't know if you've ever done this, but basically the iris contraction test measures your body's stamina in response to light stimulation. If your stamina is decreased, this test, plus your overall symptoms, may indicate that your adrenals are having difficulty supporting you through stressful events. So if you want to know how to do this, you just have to go online and just type in iris contraction test for adrenals, and it will show you. 4 stages of adrenal fatigue. Here's the beginning alarm stage. Body's immediate reaction to stressor. Body responds with significant amount of hormones, elevated levels of adrenaline for alertness and arousal. Sleep patterns suffer. Now is continued alarm stage. Stress response continues. Sex hormones starts to drop. Cortisol increases. Feeling wired but tired. Develop an unhealthy dependence on caffeine. And how many people depend on caffeine? Caffeine is due to stressed adrenals. And then it continues, goes into resistance stage. Although you may be able to function in life in a relatively normal way, your quality of life really begins to suffer. You experience symptoms like constant tiredness, lack of enthusiasm, regular infections, lower sex drive. This phase may last months or even years. Now you're on the burnout stage. Has anyone felt like this? Stress, sex hormone, neurotransmitters are lacking, extreme tiredness, irritability, depression, anxiety, apathy become normal. All body systems are affected. Recovery from this stage requires significant time and often a complete change in lifestyle. And you probably would see this even in your teenagers. They're going to go into puberty. Adrenal insufficiency recovery time. Recovery for adrenal fatigue can take a little while, so be patient with yourself. After all, it took months, maybe years to wear out your adrenals, so it takes a little time to build up their strength again. 6 to 9 months for minor, 12 to 18 months for moderate, and up to 24 months for severe. So you see, it takes time. So if you know someone's really under adrenal fatigue, please be patient with them, and we can all help each other. Okay, now we're going to focus on 3 body systems. The hormonal controls your systems. Digestive absorbs and pulls your nutrients in to feed the body, to make sure the body is healthy and functioning. Detox removes harmful toxins out of your body and neurotoxins that harm the brain. When we are dealing with chronic illness, one or more of these systems are crashed out. What is it like if that body is hormonal crashed out? What does it feel like for someone? Hormonal crash. People will put on body fat because your metabolism is run by your hormones, and in areas such as a spare tire around the middle. You ever feel like that? You have that spare tire, those love handles? I tell you, mine started happening in my 40s. Fatigue, because hormones regulate your energy and mood, so people get tired. You ever just feel so tired throughout the day? It's no fun. It's hard to go on with your day. Depressed. Hormones control depression, anxiety. There can be a physical lack of energy, or sometimes both. So body and mind go together. What is the causes for hormonal crash? It's very rare that hormones just fall apart on their own. They are generally responding to some kind of stress, and the stress can be emotional. Someone died, gone through a divorce, kid issues. Those are just samples. Dietary, food not digesting, agreeing with you, leaky gut. Inflammatory. Inflammatory is tricky because inflammation is hidden. Now it's hidden in the gut. Most people are unaware their gut is inflamed. Like if you whack your thumb with a hammer, your thumb gets inflamed and swollen. You can tell. However, with the GI tract, you can't, so it's hard for people to sort out. However, the hormonal system responds to emotional, dietary, and inflammatory stresses the exact same way. Adrenals affects hormones. We're under stress, emotional, dietary, and inflamed stress. And what happens? The key anti-stress hormone, cortisol, shoots up higher and higher. The ability to produce sex hormones drops. So what that means, the more stress you're under, the less you produce your sex hormone. As the cortisol goes up, year after year, the estrogen and progesterone and testosterone drop year after year. That's why a lot of women have a lot of female issues. Why do we feel fatigue when we're having issues with hormonal crash? Well, initially under stress, the cortisol shoots up, and if that stress remains for long enough, the cortisol levels burn out, or we go into what we call adrenal burnout. Cortisol levels go up. It's harder for women to get pregnant. I don't know if you guys know that, but I know there is some friends who are really having difficulty to get pregnant. A lot of times it can be because the cortisol is up too high. So if a woman or man thinks they're low with their hormones, but not understanding it, why it was low in the first place, you're not fixing the major problem, you're just covering it up. Leaky gut. Remember when I spoke on that? Well, the most common cause of these hormone problems is the inflammation caused by leaky gut. So you also want to address your gut, not just the adrenals. It's a vicious cycle where damage to the gut causes inflammation, and the inflammation in the gut depletes hormones. If your hormones are making you crazy, leaky gut could be a problem for you. Other issues, common female problems: miscarriage, infertility issues, hot flashes, night sweat, mood swings, tender breasts, ovarian cysts, PCOS, that's polycystic ovary syndrome, endometriosis. There's so many. This is why I want to talk on progesterone a little bit. The 4 primary roles of progesterone regulate your menstrual cycle, and that's very important. And it facilitates and sustains a pregnancy. So people who want to get pregnant, got to get your progesterone looked at. Counterbalance estrogens, prevent PMS, fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis. I have a friend, she has so much pain with endometriosis. She's already had 2 surgeries due to it. Calm emotions. It reduces headaches, insomnia, and mood swings. And at the end, I will show you which one I use, and it's very effective. Connection between your adrenal burnout and weak gut lining. Remember I shared with you guys about the damage of the gut lining, of what the leaky gut does to it. Well, the more your adrenals are burned out, the weaker your gut lining becomes. So the immune gut response starts to fail. People get chronic diarrhea, chronic constipation, food sensitivities, and other gut issues. It can take a couple of years of stress for the gut stuff to show up. That's why we don't know right away. It can take a while, and especially if you're going under a lot of stress and you look at this COVID, more people are going to have gut issues, adrenal issues, their hormones are not going to be functioning, they're going to be fluctuating up and down. There's probably might even have people are going to have issues even trying to get pregnant, women trying to get pregnant. This is how you should feel when your adrenals are healthy. If your adrenals are in good shape, then you should have no gas, bloating, women with 0 PMS, and perimenopause or menopause. Boy, I don't know who doesn't have that. There should be no night sweats or mood swings. Boy, husbands would be very happy, wouldn't they? Symptoms of high and low cortisol levels. So this is the symptoms you have: high cortisol levels, wired or fatigued, high blood pressure, hyperglycemia. Now, the symptoms of low cortisol levels, if you look from worsening memory and concentration and look down, they're almost similar, except for the low cortisol levels, you will have bone loss, bone and muscle loss, anxiety, and irritability. You don't have those ones with the high cortisol levels. So you really need to get your cortisol levels checked to see where you're at. Every hormone issue links to adrenal and thyroid. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the thyroid. Yes, the thyroid can be affected as well. When you're under stress, the cortisol goes up, your estrogen goes down, and when you're stressed for a long time, your DHEA goes up and then drops. Now, your DHEA is a precursor to estrogen. So in the beginning stage of adrenal burnout, your progesterone levels are going to fall, which makes it hard for women to get pregnant. They experience symptoms a week before their cycle starts, because that's when progesterone is to be there, and it's not. And then if they burn out even more, then their estrogen declines. Then you have related estrogen symptoms, which can be low sex drive, painful intercourse, and more cosmetic. Your skin doesn't have that glow. The adrenal and thyroid connection. You're not talking, Michael. Huh? Does it really get out of the way? Okay, that's good. Thank you. Imagine the adrenals as the engine of your car and the thyroid as the accelerator pedal. If the engine is broken, you can press the accelerator all you want, but you aren't going anywhere. Likewise, if the accelerator is broken, the best engine in the world can't respond. The seesaw relationship between the thyroid and the adrenals is controlled by the hypothalamus, which is in the brain, with great care. And it wants to keep the thyroid and the adrenals in balance. If one side is too high, the hypothalamus pushes the other side lower. If one side is too low, the other will be raised up to compensate. This is the body's wisdom to give you energy, but help you avoid burnout. Adrenal and thyroid problems. You all know where the thyroid is in the front of your neck, as you see the voice box and the trachea. It's right in between there. Okay? So people on thyroid medication who really have an adrenal problem, not a thyroid problem, one sure sign of this is when I hear the thyroid meds were great for a while, but stopped working. So I had to increase the dose. Now, I don't know if any of you are on thyroid medication, but if you are and you find that your thyroid medication has to be increased, it might be your adrenals as well. That's why I say to people, if you're going to get your thyroid checked out, get your adrenal checked out as well. What happened is that tired adrenals told your thyroid to slow down because the engine, the adrenals, is in danger of burnout. Thyroid metabolism then down regulates the correct response while the body waits for you to get physical or emotional stress under control. By adding thyroid medication, you circumvent this feedback mechanism. And the adrenals have to insist even more the thyroid slow down. Thus, higher and higher doses of thyroid medication are given. So you see what's happening? The opposite can be true too. If your adrenals are cranked up and producing excess cortisol, your body will suppress the thyroid to protect your valuable adrenal engine from burnout. Neurotransmitters such as GABA, which I highly recommend, is very good for you, and serotonin, which you can get from almonds, and there's different foods. It also give you that, help regulate excess adrenaline, anxiety, and stress. Now, as you see, remember the serotonin, where is it produced from? It's produced from the gut. So it's very important that you take care of your gut as well. Passion flower. Have you ever heard of this herb? But this is very good for adrenal fatigue when you're wired and you can't sleep well. What if I'm already on thyroid medication? Good question. You cannot stop your medication, but you can do a salivary adrenal cortisone test. Not cortisone blood test. It's basically useless, and see where you are. See, some people go get a blood test for the cortisol, but that's not accurate. They actually say the salivary is the best. So a saliva test is the only way to usefully measure cortisol, the main adrenal hormone that governs stamina, muscle, water retention, blood pressure, and more. In salivary testing, 4 samples over 1 day are taken to observe the levels of cortisol at different times of the day. So it should be the lowest at night and highest on raising. As a natural health clinician, I have seen many of these tests, and the majority show total cortisol is to be less than or marginally optimal, a true reflection of the exhausting pace of modern life. I seldom see tests with high cortisol. So bottom line is many of us are simply worn down, overworked, and needing some recharge time. Seeing a low cortisol test result can validate that your feelings of fatigue are not all in your head, or you're just a negative person or need more caffeine. It's a call to rest and reprioritize your life. So if you know somebody, they're just negative, like they're depressed, we need to look at their life. We need to know what they're going through, if they're willing to share. If they're not, though, maybe we can share this with them so they can get tested and figure out what's going on with themselves so they can have abundant, happy life that God planned us with. Conditions from adrenal burnout. So the following is just a partial list. I've already went through anxiety, panic attacks. Asthma is one of them. Even autoimmune disease. Why would autoimmune disease be here? That's because it's connected with the leaky gut. So there's fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. And yes, fibromyalgia is very linked to this because I know a lot of people, when they get fibromyalgia, they had a very stressful current event that happened. And a lot of times this is why they end up with fibromyalgia. It seems the stress gets too high. Maybe they need to check their cortisol, and that will help with the fibromyalgia. Chronic fatigue syndrome, Graves' disease, multiple sclerosis even, and rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, diabetes type 2, depression, headaches, hypoglycemia, infertility, and all those female issues. So this is, I'm going to share now with the healing foods. Lemon. If you're looking to support your adrenals, starting the day with a glass of warm water, the juice of half a lemon, and a pinch of Celtic salt or even Himalayan. I know some people who do lemon and water, and that's fine. But if your adrenals are stressed out, just add a pinch of salt as well with it. Healthy fats, coconut, olives, and avocados. Cruciferous vegetables, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. Nuts such as walnuts and almonds. Seeds, pumpkin, chia, and flax. Kelp and seaweed. Why kelp and seaweed? That's because it has iodine, and that's very good for the thyroid. Celtic and Himalayan sea salt. These foods help overcome adrenal insufficiency because they're nutrient dense, low in sugar, have healthy fat and fiber. 12 foods. So these are the 12 foods that I have on the screen that are very good for you. I don't know if you want to take a picture of it or what, but it's stress, depression, and anxiety can really wreak havoc on our bodies, especially on our adrenals. To promote healthy adrenal glands, be sure to include plenty of high quality natural foods in your diet. So as Michael was talking about food, you know, that God has given us in the Garden of Eden, and here they are. We have them also in our lives. Taking the right supplements. Another big key to overcoming adrenal fatigue is taking the right supplements. I always recommend eating the right foods to heal your body. Thus, certain adrenal boosting nutrients are needed to get your adrenal function back up, such as ashwagandha, and I told you about that herb in the leaky gut, but it's also very good for your adrenals. It has anti-stressful effects, supports your adrenal and thyroid function, and the immune system, and mood, depression, anxiety. Holy basil. Now, holy basil does very similar to ashwagandha. However, if you can't handle nightshades like tomatoes, potatoes, capsicums, I'd highly recommend to do holy basil then. And also a bonus, if you plant holy basil, mosquitoes hate it. So mosquitoes won't come around. And magnesium, as we know, is very important. It functions 300 functions in your body and very good for your enzymes. Key herbs to adrenal fatigue is rhodiola. Don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's also an antidepressant, adaptogenic, anti-anxiety-like properties, which can be helpful for adrenal stress. Now, this herb can also be very energizing. So with a burnout, like if you're bottom out, just start on a low dose, take it in the morning and try it out. Take about 100 to 300 milligrams a day. Another one's licorice. I also said about licorice with the leaky gut. But remember, if you have high blood pressure, I don't recommend licorice, but you can take diglyceride licorice. And it inhibits the breakdown of cortisol, thereby helping the body keep more of it around for healthy functioning. Vitamins, B5, that's pantothenic acid. That's very good for bringing down stress. Vitamin B12 is very important, especially for people who are vegan, but not even vegan, just it's important in general. Vitamin D3, zinc. Taking these supplements in their whole food form could greatly improve your symptoms of adrenal insufficiency. If you look here at vitamin C, how much vitamin C is in one pepper? Well, I'll say capsicum here since I'm in Australia. But a yellow capsicum is 341 milligrams. Who knew it was that high? Red bell pepper, 230 milligrams. And green capsicum, 119. So those are a good source of vitamin C as well. Now, taking supplements alone without accommodating healing habits and or eliminating the bad habits will not restore your adrenals. So this is the last and most important key to restoring your adrenal function: to heed your mind and stress needs. Pay attention to your body and try the following natural stress relievers. Rest when you feel tired as much as possible. So if you feel like you want to have a nap, have one. I do sometimes. Sleep 8 to 10 hours a night. Avoid staying up late and stay on a regular sleep cycle, ideally in bed before 10. Now remember what I said, the neurotoxins are being released before from 10 to 2. So you want to make sure you're in bed and asleep. Laugh and do something fun every day. Minimize work and relational stress however possible. Eat on a regular food cycle. Exercise, even moderate exercise, and walking can help. If you feel tired after exercise, sometimes beneficial to only walk until adrenals are sufficiently healed. Avoid negative people and self-talk. Take time for yourself. Do something relaxing. Seek counsel or support for any traumatic experiences. Self-talk. Let's talk about self-talk for a minute. Our bodies are made to heal. However, the words we say have a great impact on our body and our ability to heal. So be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Try to avoid saying negative things about yourself and others. It's important to choose to be around positive people and stay positive about yourself as well. Gentle words bring life and health. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. Proverbs 15, verse 4. And I want to end with this. Health. Health is a treasure. Of all temporal possessions, it is the most precious. Wealth, learning, and honor are dearly purchased at the loss of the vigor of health. None of these can secure happiness. If health is lacking, it is a terrible sin to abuse the health that God has given us. Such abuses enfeeble us for life and make us losers, even if we gain by such means any amount of education. So we see how important our health is. This is why it's so important for us to understand how the body works, how to prevent diseases, because when you get the disease, you're going to lose a lot more wealth and you're not going to be healthy. You're going to struggle more through life. So my prayer is for every one of us to all have good health. May God speed. You started.